Greetings, fellow nerds and geeks. Why don't you pull yourself up a chair, grab yourself a beverage, and prepare to enjoy a geek-tastic conversation. Welcome to the Geek Easy.
Welcome back to the Geek Easy podcast. This is episode number 77 for February 19th, 2020. I am Pixel Dan, and I am, of course, joined by my good friends, Mr. Jonathan Leonard.
Hey.
And Jaron McCaffrey.
What's up?
What's going on, guys?
I always feel really bad that I don't really have anything to say to what's going on.
Okay.
Guys.
All right. So,
I don't have something again this time. I didn't come up with something.
Oh, all right. That's
every
fair.
time you're like, "What's going on?" and I'm like, "Nothing."
Same old.
I'm so bad at podcasting. What the hell is wrong with me? What is this? My only job. I have one job to have interesting things to say.
Yeah. The trick is say whatever's there and then keep a straight face. Sounds like, can you believe it's February 19th already? Man, that's a thing.
It's almost March. Oof. Before we know it, it's going to be...
Boy, it flies, right, guys?
That's true.
So, movies?
John's good at podcasting. That was the most beautiful segue I've ever heard in the history of podcasting. We've actually got a lot of exciting things that we're going to talk about today. The three of us are surprisingly all caught up on some new movie releases, so we're actually going to do some timely movie discussions, which is awesome. We haven't had a chance to do that in a while, I don't feel like.
Nope. We were spot on with our Star Wars review.
We were very on time. Very on time. I don't know. I feel like us having distance between ourselves and the release of that movie was beneficial for our conversation.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, so I think
whatever makes our show sound better.
I think it went well. But I'm excited to talk about the movies that we're going to discuss today. Of course, we've also got a few other big announcements. We're going to talk about Batman a little bit. But the first thing I want to talk about is one of the most exciting things for me, because I was totally geeking out about it the other day, is that we got the reveal of the cast list for the Netflix exclusive Masters of the Universe Revelations series. This is, of course, the anime style series that Kevin Smith is heading up. This is one of two animated series that Netflix is doing for Masters, but this is the more fan-driven show. The other one's going to be like a new one for kids, and then apparently there's going to be a movie too. So there's a lot of Netflix He-Man going on, which is real cool.
Be Rise of the He-Man.
Rise of the He-Mans happening on Netflix. So yeah, this cast list came out, and man, I was just blown away by it. So let's run through this real quick, and then we will discuss it. Cast list is as follows: Mark Hamill as Skeletor.
You can just stop there.
Right?
Yeah.
We got Lena Headey as Evelyn, Chris Wood as Prince Adam and He-Man, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela, Liam Cunningham as Man-at-Arms, Stephen Root as Cringer, Diedrich Bader, I think that's how you say his last name, right? So. Yeah, as King Randor and Trapjaw. Griffin Newman as Orko, Tiffany Smith as Andra, Henry Rollins as Triclops, Alan Oppenheimer as Mossman, Susan Eisenberg as the Sorceress, Alicia Silverstone as Queen Marlena, Justin Long as Roboto, Jason Mewes as Stinkor, Phil Lamar as Hero, Tony Todd as Scareglow, Cree Summer as the Priestess. I don't know who this is yet. Kevin Michael Richardson as Beastman, Kevin Conroy as Merman, and Harley Quinn Smith as Alina. So that's a pretty stellar cast list. There are a lot of big names on there, a lot of good voice actor names on there. Like you just said at the very beginning, Mark Hamill as Skeletor. Holy cow, dude. I am all in on that. All in. You have no idea. And I know I've seen a little bit of discussion already Alan Oppenheimer is also on the cast list, which, if you guys are not aware, that's the original voice of Skeletor.
Oh, okay.
So he did Skeletor, he did Man-at-Arms, he did Cringer Battle Cat, and various other roles in the original series, because in the Filmation shows, it was literally like 5 voice actors that basically did everybody.
Yeah.
But Alan Oppenheimer was Skeletor, and he's the guy that gave Skeletor the iconic voice that everybody has emulated since. So I've seen a little bit of discussion
not Frank Langella.
Well, except Frank Langella went a whole different direction, but it's awesome. I love Langella Skeletor. I love it. I've seen a little bit of discussion of people wondering why Oppenheimer is on the cast list but not being Skeletor. But I feel personally I am totally cool with the route they're taking. I mean, it's a new series, and I think it's cool that they gave Oppenheimer a place on the cast list. He's going to be Moss Man. That should be fun.
He also might not have wanted. We never know.
He may not have wanted it, and you don't know. He's quite a bit older now.
Capability-wise, he might be able to give it runs, but not do an entire series.
Sure,
who knows? There's a ton of reasons that could have gone into it.
Yeah. So personally, I don't see any ill will or anything like that. I don't feel like he got snubbed for that role by any means.
And if he were super mad about it, he probably wouldn't be Moss Man.
He wouldn't be on the cast list. Yeah, exactly. And I think Hamill is, man, if you were to name a voice actor that could play somebody as iconic as Skeletor, I mean, come on. Yeah. I mean, I know he's iconic as the Joker already, but man, tweak that a little bit. Give us a good Skeletor cackle. Hamill's got that, dude. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
Like, if I were known my entire life for like one thing, overall, and someday somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, that thing you do, Mark Hamill's going to do it now."
Yeah,
I'd probably go, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah, he was also Falcor in Neverending Story.
Really?
That's Alan Oppenheimer.
Yeah, we just watched that not long ago with the kids.
That's him
funny.
too.
I just when I was watching She-Ra and I got to that Gina Davis episode, well, the first one because she's in a bunch.
Oh, in the new She-Ra.
I didn't know that she was going to be in that show, and then I was watching it. I'm like, man, that sounds way too much like Gina Davis to not be Gina Davis, and I got super excited that she was in it.
Yeah.
And when I read this list, I felt like this was a list of Gina Davises.
I mean, when I saw this list, that was kind of the first thing I thought of. Kevin Smith really did a good job of hyping this up at PowerCon. Like, being there, the energy was pretty amazing. Like, everybody was real excited, and like the buzz was really good. And there's just that whole feeling of, wow, we're getting a new He-Man show, and it feels like they're treating it seriously. So this might be something special. But then you never know. You never know for sure. But I feel like once I read this cast list, it kind of solidified a little bit that they are treating this pretty seriously by giving it the cast that they gave it. So it just kind of like doubled down my excitement for what we might be seeing out of this show. And I know that that's risky because I know that it's very easy to get disappointed by stuff like this, but I don't know. Like, this is I'm real. Some of these choices are awesome. Like, Sarah Michelle Gellar is Teela.
Buffy, man.
Buffy is Teela. I know. It's awesome. Remember, she was April once too.
I know. Cool. And it was awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah. I know. The much underrated TMNT movie that nobody talks about, but is real good.
It's my second favorite TMNT movie.
I could totally back that. Yeah. Absolutely. Lena Headey as Evil Lynn is pretty awesome. Yep. Cersei, for your Game of Thrones fans out there, I feel like that fits really well.
I just don't feel like she has a super distinctive voice. Mm-hmm. Is my only complaint. I mean, she's fine. I like Lena Headey just fine.
Sure.
And I mean, she was a Sarah Connor that I really liked, and I liked her. When they were doing stuff with her on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I liked her. But like when I think about her voice, I'm just like, I mean.
Yeah. Well, who knows what she's going to sound like, too, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like, Mark Hamill's not going to sound like Mark Hamill. So.
Right, yeah, for sure. But you don't usually, you don't hear a lot of, like, the women voices go real cartoony, over the top. That'd be awesome if she did.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in something like that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it all depends on the character and how they're taking it and everything,
For sure.
Some of the other things I was really excited about on here were just some of the names that are on this list. Now there's some kind of deep cuts on here, like Ilena. Harley Quinn Smith is playing Ilena. So she was like a one-shot character in the Filmation cartoon that was like an old friend of Teela's that showed up for one episode. So I could totally see that being a bit part in this, but it's neat that they're going back to like Filmation lore like that and like kind of bringing in some of these smaller bit part characters. I was specifically excited to see characters on this list like Scareglow and Hero, because we've never seen those two characters in animation before. Scareglow, of course, he was only in the original toy line, but he's kind of one of the more memorable characters from the original toy line.
It was a really cool toy.
He was a skeleton that glows in the dark and has a purple cape. I mean, he's just a cool-looking character.
The perfect combination.
Tony Todd's doing the voice of him. If you're not familiar with Tony Todd, he is Candyman in the Candyman movies.
Oh, yeah.
He's also done a lot of voice work. He was the voice of Zoom in the Flash series.
Yep.
So he's got that very kind of like creepy voice, good voice vibe, and I think he's going to be awesome for a character like Scareglow.
Yep. He showed up in Final Destinations too.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that's one. That's one we got to do for the freak.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. And then Hero, of course, Phil Lamar's doing Hero, and of course Phil Lamar does a ton of voice work. But Hero's kind of one of those characters that's like he's almost like an ancestor type character to He-Man. He's like kind of one of those sources of the power of Grayskull. So I would imagine we're going to get some sort of flashback or something like that. But that's something they've never dove into before in the cartoons. So I'm kind of excited to see
even the newer ones.
Even the newer ones, they've never really touched on Hero.
I've never seen any of the newer ones.
In
so I don't know.
In the 2002 series, which was a very good series, they kind of changed the Hero character into somebody else entirely called King Grayskull. Yeah. And King Grayskull was the source of the power, and he was like He-Man's ancestor. But basically, they just rewrote the Hero character into this new character. And then since that has happened, like in modern times, now they've like rewritten history to say that they both exist and they're both kind of like together. So I don't know, it's they've done that thing where they've rewrote it to make a reason why they both exist.
Yeah, right.
Because Hero was, if we're going back to the original toy lines, when the original Masters toy line was ending in 87, the plan was for a spin-off toy line called The Powers of Grayskull, which was supposed to be set before the times of He-Man, and the main character in that toy line was Hero. Mm-hmm. And that line never took off. Like, they got as far as like setting up the story. They released a couple of the three dinosaurs that got released in the He-Man toy line, Bionatops and Tyrannosaurus and Turbodactyl, were actually part of this Hero toy line that never happened. So it's kind of one of those things where like for longtime fans of Masters, or like the hardcore fans that have been following this for so long, it's cool to see a character like this really get validated and become official in a cartoon like this, where he's never really been given that proper chance before. Yeah. So that's why I was excited to see that on the list.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and that's also one of those things that just kind of instills a little bit of confidence in the whole thing. Like, Kevin Smith and the people behind this are obviously like digging deep.
Yeah.
Like, they're like really pulling in some deep stuff with this to try to make a cool story, hopefully. So I'm excited, I think. Was there any other standout names on there? Diedrich Bader's always awesome.
Yeah, Conroy's the only one that I recognize. They're like,
so Diedrich Bader is gonna save the panda. Panda's dead.
Oh,
and he's gonna be King Randor and Trap Town. So
I mean, I know at least half of these names. They're not all people I would necessarily go straight to for like voice things, but like Stephen Root, that's Milton from Office Space, the guy from he was in Dodgeball, and you'd know him for sure if you saw him.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Well, and I was saying like of the ones that wasn't somebody super recognizable.
Yeah, Henry Rollins, that's a name I haven't seen in a while. Justin Long, man.
Yeah, Justin Long as Roboto. Yeah, that's insane.
That's ridiculous.
Well, some of this is definitely Kevin Smith bringing some of his friends to work, which I'm totally cool with, because I know he's good friends with Justin Long. Justin Long shows up in a lot of Kevin Smith movies.
Well, I mean,
his daughter's on there.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Everyone except for Lena Headey, right? I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar has been in them.
That's
Mark
true.
Hamill's been in his movies.
That's true. That's true.
Was Tony Rollins?
Was Alicia Silverstone?
I don't know.
Kevin
Conroy is Merman, dude. That's pretty awesome, too.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's our animated series Batman.
Yeah.
And he's going to be Merman.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I don't know. I'm in.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think it looks super fun. I thought that was
and that's with a lot of animated stuff. If it looks cool, it looks cool. So I would have been into giving this a chance with a bunch of names I had never heard before.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd still be excited about it. But when you send out a list like this, like you said, it just sort of reinforces that they are taking it seriously. Like they're putting some money behind this. They're putting resources into it. They're trying to get people involved and into it, and that's just a good sign for the project as a whole, I think.
And real talk, this is way more exciting to me than I feel like a live-action He-Man movie is going to be. I feel like this has got better potential, even just looking at this cast list.
Spiritually, this is supposed to follow the original, right?
I think it's supposed to give us like a proper ending to the original Filmation series. Yeah. But it's going to be a little more adult oriented, I think, obviously, than that cartoon was. But it is a spiritual successor to that original show, and I think it's I don't think this is going to be like a continuous series. I think it's supposed to be a contained story that's supposed to be like a finale kind of a thing. So that's the way I understand it, at least. And then we'll have that other series, which is the new He-Man for kids, a new generation. So either way, that's pretty crazy. It's amazing to see how all of a sudden in 2020 it feels like they are going all in on He-Man all of a sudden. Like they're finally giving him a chance.
Well, they've done that thing where they've just hovered around it for so long, doing anything big with it, and they've had all these different projects start and stop, and now it feels like they can't decide what to do, so they're just doing all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. It's like they're just going all in. A cartoon for the fans, a cartoon for the kids. Go ahead and put a movie on Netflix too. Why not? Just throwing it all out there. We got a new toy line coming out that's hitting retail this year, which is going to be awesome because it'll be the first time we've seen He-Man toys on retail shelves since the early 2000s. I mean, they're going all in. They're just... Honestly, this is going to make or break He-Man. Because if all of this stuff doesn't work, this might be the last. This might be the last chance for He-Man to get this. But
there are no last chances if there's money to be made.
I mean, you're right. We live in a different world now too. I mean, streaming and everything. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know. All right. Well, now that I'm done geeking out about He-Man, why don't we talk about Batman? Because that was a big topic of conversation for at least one day on the internet.
Well, they do those test release things. Like, it becomes a big thing on the internet because we've got a picture of a new Batman now. Because they released 20 seconds of test footage of Pattinson in a suit. But it fades away pretty quickly because it's a dimly red-lit picture of a suit that may or may not actually be what they go with.
May not actually be what it really is.
Everybody gets really excited and hyped up one way or the other, and then they realize that this is nothing, and it kind of fades away. But it's worth talking on. That's why it comes and goes so quickly.
Well, and that's exactly the reason they release stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, for sure. It's
Spark
just to garner
a little bit
attention.
of buzz, get some attention, get some discussion going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It reminds me of, do you remember when The Dark Knight was getting ready to come out and they released that first picture of the Joker, which was just that extreme close-up of his face? And you hated it. I remember how mad you were at the way that the Joker looked for that
awful.
movie. But that was like this feels kind of the same, except I just remember that was even more like that was a huge deal. Like everybody was talking about.
Well, and that ended up being like basically an homage, if that's the right word, to this big movie that I believe originated from Japan, but I'm fuzzy on the details right now what it was. But even that picture turned out to be basically reminiscent of this other famous picture from movie lore that I didn't know anything about.
Okay.
And so
I don't think I knew that. Huh.
When I said, now I will also say I still don't love the look of that Joker to this day. No matter how good that movie is, I don't like the way he looks.
That's true.
But yes, it's the same sort of thing. We're just like, we got something, let's throw it out there, get people talking for a few days, and then that'll satiate them for another 4 or 5 months until we get a real picture, and then that'll satiate them for 4 or 5 months until we get a trailer, and then somewhere in the next 3 years the movie will come out.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you guys think? Anything stand out about this bat suit from what we can see? Can't see much.
Yeah, the cowl looks real thick, but again, I don't know that that's a lasting look to it to me.
I thought it looked pretty Shoemaker-ish.
Oh,
pretty,
yeah?
Pretty. Like it felt real Batman and Robin or real Batman Forever for me. Like,
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's got a real high collar on the cape, which is something I don't think we've really seen in the movies before. But I kind of like that. I don't know. I think it looked kind of cool. But the suit itself is very armored looking. Like we're going back to this armored look.
Which I like.
And you like that?
Yeah.
So I go back and forth on that.
If it looks good on an actual screen test, you know what I mean? Like, if it looks good for real in the legit movie, then yeah. The concept I like a lot. The look I can't tell yet.
That's true. And we got to see more of it, too. Like, one of the reasons I was so excited, I remember, about the Affleck suit is it felt more like a comic book Batman suit, and we had never really seen that in the movies before. Because, you know, once Burton brought Batman to the movies, that's kind of where the armored look for Batman came from. And it feels like every point after that, it was just every Batman in the movie had to have an armored suit.
Well, their stuff was so padded.
Right.
You know, like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, like the Bale suit.
They had to make...
Michael
Keaton look like a superhero.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had to make Mr. Mom look like look like a superhero and everything. Right. This one totally gave me vibes of the Arkham games, just from the little bit that we've seen, the way the armor looks around the chest and everything. Because the suits in those games are very armored, or he at least gets to the point where he gets the very armored look. Yeah. And honestly, I guess I'm okay with that. Like, the games always gave me a good explanation for why he would do that to his suit, and it makes sense. He is a normal guy, right? Yeah. Like, it would make sense for him to armor up his outfit and everything.
And that's the thing with this movie. I don't even know what direction they're going with
either.
Like, I'm pretty positive they're not doing like an origin story. Maybe I think he is younger. So
maybe it'll actually be like Batman versus Predator, and they're just really
dang! Oh, I'm in.
Really low key in it.
I'm in. Go,
and if I had any respect for the WB to low key anything at all, I would get remotely excited.
So the only thing that is really unique about this that I've seen a little bit of discussion on, and I don't even know where this originated, or if there's like a source that I should be citing here, but the bat insignia on his chest supposedly is made from the guns that his parents were murdered with, is what's being said. Interesting. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I guess that's okay, but I don't know. I don't know.
That's a stupid idea. It won't make or break the movie for me.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't think it matters enough for me to like get mad or like, you know, I don't think I care.
And I also don't know that it's a real idea because sometimes the internet just says stuff, you know, so whatever.
Exactly. That's the thing.
But that's the other thing, man. Dude, Warner Brothers is a wild card. You have no idea what they're going to do.
Right.
You know?
I'm trying to find, because there's definitely...
You can't hear an idea that makes enough or too little sense to believe they'd do it.
So there's some like close-up pictures just on the bat insignia online.
It definitely looks like metallic and everything.
They look like they're made of guns or something. So
now, if you want to get to the point where, I mean, I thought it was just one gun, but I guess however they want to do it is how it was done. If you want to get to the point where, like, when your parents get murdered and you go to the police station, do the police just go, here, kid, you keep these?
Here's a souvenir
like, where in the world
would
he get those even?
I mean, he's a detective. He could figure it out. Maybe it was evidence and he got it out of the police locker. I don't know. He's Batman.
Sure, Dan. That
He's
works.
Batman.
Yeah,
he does what he wants.
Yep. Joe Chill sent it to him like a thumb. Here, kid.
Oh, man.
Ugh.
Well, we're still pretty early, though. I mean,
it's
going to be a bit before we get a trailer.
I was super in on this movie before this picture came out. I'm super in on this movie now.
Yeah.
The details are in the...
Just kind of done with Batman. There's been so much Batman. Like I could do with a little more of a rest before we get more Batman.
I'd also be like, I'm not a Batman guy.
Yeah,
I'd be fine with that too. But
they seem scared to like not have Batman.
Yeah,
right.
Well, they
honestly.
are for sure.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, it just feels. I mean, for so long they just thought that Batman had to be there for there to be a successful superhero movie.
Yeah.
And that's why things were the way they were for so long. So, and that's why we got Superman, Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Which was a Batman movie with Superman
in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've discussed this ad nauseum. These aren't real like big think people.
Yeah.
You know. They're
need us some Batman.
They've got their ways, and they're going to do those ways, whether they work or not.
Bigger, faster, more Batman.
Bigger, faster, more Batman. All right. Well, we've got a couple movies that I want to get into the discussion about, but we had talked about in the last episode that the Oscars were coming up, and I know that John watched the Oscars. Was there anything that you wanted to mention or talk about on here?
No, I mean, not particularly. Like, I'm as much of a bummer as it is. Really, no. We need to bring it up and just add some closure to it. I saw the rest of the movies. It was a very strong field, I feel, this year, especially in comparison with the last several years where, I mean, there's been 8 to 10 movies nominated every year for the last, getting close to 10 years now, I think. Mm-hmm. looking back to previous years, I can't name most of them. I feel like most of this field is going to be stuff I remember for a few years. Jojo Rabbit was amazing. Mm-hmm. I very much liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I very much liked Ford versus Ferrari. There was none of them this year that were bad, and usually there's at least one or two. There's such a wide variety in there.
Sure.
There's usually at least one or two where you're just like, I guess I'll watch that one. I guess I wasn't a big fan of either of the Netflix ones, but those barely registered for me because they weren't the show.
So bad.
It's not great. It's 3.5 hours of a movie I've seen before with the same people but done better. It's just totally unnecessary.
Better, faster.
Yeah.
More Batman?
Much less.
Oh, less Batman.
Well, I mean, it's a series of tremendous actors who are sitting there staring at a screen because they can't turn their head because that'll screw up the de-aging process,
That was going to be one of the things I wanted to point out. Scorsese started that whole thing. We kind of talked about it, calling the Marvel movies, theme park rides, and then he made a 4-hour movie that was entirely gimmicked.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. The whole point that this movie exists is like, what if I could make a gangster movie with all my friends, but like back when they were in their prime? And it's like, Marty, you did that a couple of times with these same guys, and they were great. You don't need to do it again today, where it's just sort of weird.
Yeah.
You know?
And it also, I we don't need to get into the whole big thing, but. We had talked about in Captain Marvel the de-aging on Sam Jackson, but then like they couldn't when he had to kneel down or get up, you couldn't fake that he was a 70-year-old man. I expected this to not be as big of a deal in that regards, considering that this wasn't a superhero movie where any of these guys were necessarily going to need to be running or moving around. Yeah, but man. Robert De Niro looks like a hunchback through. You know what I mean? Like like his also the body. Like it made me appreciate that. Like the body shows the age. Even when you're for some people even when you're not necessarily having to kneel down, jump up, run away from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever you're doing.
It felt like somebody had put in the old NBA Jam big head mode.
Oh, wow.
In several scenes. Like when you start the movie and you're like, Joe Pesci's body is so small, but his head is not. It's not very small at all. It's just awful. And so again, it makes the whole movie like even when you're a scene where you're like, man, these are really great actors and they're acting, except they can't move their heads and their heads are too big, and when they do move their bodies, it's weird. So the whole time you're like, it hurts to watch.
Yeah.
It's just very bizarre. And again, I don't know why it had to be so long when it was just a gimmick. And that was the thing with Captain Marvel. That was played as a gimmick. Like, that was the gimmick. The gimmick is, hey, come see young Sam Jackson for a small part of our movie.
Right.
And so when you get pulled out of it, you're like, it's rough to watch him run, but it's still cool that we're seeing it, and it's only a small part of the movie, so you're great. When you're sitting down in your living room to watch only those scenes for 3.5 hours, it's hard to keep track, keep your attention. So, anyways, didn't like it. Didn't like Marriage Story very much either. Marriage Story was fine. Great performances. Great's probably a strong term. Very good performances. I like that the Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson were nominated. I didn't have a problem with that. The movie itself was just very bland. It's just like, hey, look, here's two people who used to get along and now they don't. It's the breakup without jokes. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. Nothing special.
I felt like even watching the trailer for that, I was like, that looks like a movie that's going to make me uncomfortable and sad.
Yeah, basically.
I don't think I want to watch that.
Yeah. Basically, that's the extent of it. But all the theatrical ones, I at least enjoyed. Like I said, Jojo Rabbit, I loved.
Movies like that, you just feel like, man, somebody was working something out,
right? Yeah,
like that. Like those pop up sometimes, and you're like, I don't know why this movie got made. This movie got made because somebody was working something out in a script, and a director who felt like they needed to work that out talked to a producer who felt like he needed to work that out, and then they found some actors that had some shit to work out.
Yeah. And at one point, somebody along that stretch called Netflix, and Netflix went, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
How much is it again? Film it. We'll put it on.
Light anything.
How much is it again?
The ceremony was just bad for them. I mean, there just wasn't anything entertaining. They didn't have a host again this year. They had Chris Rock and Steve Martin come out and do the monologue. They were entertaining.
That's one of those things, like, once you set that precedent that you don't have to pay a host anymore, you'll never pay a host
That's
again.
the thing. I don't know that they were ever paying those people in the first place. Wow. I think that's part of the reason they can't find anybody. It's a really thankless job. Yeah. Like, you get scrutinized like crazy. Everyone in the room is mad at you at one point or another. You have to do these bits where you're trying to put on an entertaining television show for the audience, but the people in the room all hate you and the audience and television and everything else. And most of them are inebriated. Like, I can't imagine anybody saying yes to that. And then, the last time somebody did say yes to it, they kicked him out pretty early, and everybody either got mad at that or got mad at people getting mad at that. It just becomes this giant thing. So you're just like, why would anybody say yes to that?
Yeah.
But when you don't have anybody to steer the thing, then you come up with, like I said, I thought the monologue was funny because they had two really funny guys get up there and make fun of a room full of celebrities for a few minutes, and it was enjoyable. And nothing else entertaining happened the rest of that show, pretty much. Like a couple things here and there, maybe, that were not, would have been okay in a better show, but when they were in a sea of boring, there was nothing.
I didn't watch it. I was a little disappointed that I missed Eminem.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I saw, heard, read
even
about.
That turned like,
I'm sure it wasn't,
Because I got excited when that started, and then pretty quick I was like, like I've seen this song and heard this song 1,000 times. 20 years ago, he had a lot more energy when he did it. There was an entire room full of people who were either too old to care or too young to know who they were looking at.
Right.
And, I mean, they had pictures of everybody, like, kind of dancing along, and there were some people who were really getting into it, but for the most part, everybody looked like they knew they were supposed to be happy but didn't know why. Even that turned awkward,
it's kind of it's weird to think that's kind of a niche, like, thing to appeal to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, Eminem's one of the greatest living rappers, I guess we can call him. But like, that's still. I guess I don't feel like there's a lot of overlap between like the film. Yeah. Like the film crowd and the hip hop crowd.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. That's so funny.
Well, and it's like one of those we talked about a little bit earlier when we were discussing, like the In Memoriam has gotten some crap because it left some people out.
Right.
Which it does every year, and that always happens, and it's always a bummer. But one of the people that were left out was
Luke
Perry. And when that happened and people got upset, rather than just sitting back and going, well, sorry, we missed some people sometimes, we apologize, our bad, whatever. Instead of doing that, the Academy was like, well, he didn't really do a lot in movies. He was kind of, TV and mostly, and so we can't include everybody, so we got to kind of draw the line somewhere. And it's like, just I don't know, maybe just don't.
Yeah, just don't say things like that.
But then it's like,
yikes.
Even then, it's like your big entertainment for that night is a guy who was in one movie once ever, and he's your giant musical act in the middle, but you can't put 4 seconds of a picture of Luke Perry in your In Memoriam.
Yeah.
Like, where are you going with that? So
well, that's the thing where you don't want to look like you forgot. So you make up an excuse, and like having forgotten is way better than like we straight up snubbed this dude because he didn't do it. Movie. Like, come on, guys.
TV's not as good as movies.
I'll never care who they forget or snub ever again because they left Roddy Piper off the year he died. So they just that whole segment is dead to me.
Yep.
I hold an in memoriam for the in memoriam every year.
And we'll start showing those next year,
right
here on the.
I like it.
But I think probably the most entertaining part about the show, past the monologue, was just watching the director of Parasite, Bong Joon-ho. I think I'm saying it right. Win tons of awards because he looked legitimately excited to a degree that very few people look when they get up there. Yeah. He was actually surprised and happy to be there and excited that he was winning awards.
That's awesome.
And it's always nice to see a good movie win. I didn't think Parasite was the best movie of the year by any stretch, but I really enjoyed it. And his excitement over being up there several times just made me go, you know what, run with it. This is fine.
Yeah.
Some people I wanted to get Oscars got Oscars. But even then, it was just like none of the speeches were compelling, none of the jokes were great. It was just a very slow show, and I mean, I'm sure I've seen worse, but I've also seen better. So
Yeah.
hopefully at some point this will become a thing that is geared towards a viewing audience again someday.
I don't
but
know,
it's
man.
steering more and more towards just a show that's produced for the people who are in the room.
Yep.
Man, the Westminster Dog Show is never been, and like it's never going away, and it's never any good. Like like 10 people watch the Westminster Dog Show. Of course, now I'm making all the dog people out there who are we're gonna get all kinds of nasty tweets.
I've been mad about
Each one of those 10 people runs a Geek Easy fan board. We're doomed.
Yeah.
Nope, I've been mad at the Westminster Dog Show ever since I was a teenager, and I had to miss Raw because of it.
Yep.
I'll forever hold a grudge for preempting Monday Night Raw for your dog show.
Well, that's what I mean. I skipped a bunch of XFL games for the Oscars, and just nothing, But I get excited this time of year, and I hope to continue to get excited this time of year. It's fun to watch some of these movies that I would have let slip by if there weren't the nomination, and it's fun to just take 2 to 4 weeks and just celebrate movies because I love them so much, and this gives me an excuse to. But just more and more every time I get to this time of the year, and then I get to the actual ceremony, and I go, well, that's a rotten cherry on top of this thing.
A rotten cherry. All right. Well, speaking of rotten cherries.
Bum bum bum.
No, we're gonna do 2 movie discussions. Which one do you guys want to start with?
I think we should start with the rotten cherry.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I was going to suggest chronologically, but we can do your guys' way instead.
All right, so let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog.
All right. You guys didn't like Sonic the Hedgehog?
Not even a little bit.
Really?
Really?
Okay. I want to start by saying that if you go back and you watch our discussion when that trailer first dropped, which I think was just me and you when the trailer first dropped.
Yeah.
But we've definitely had a few Sonic the Hedgehog.
That would have been the fighting with my family episode.
Yes. Okay. Well, we were already in a bitter mood that episode anyway. But we've definitely had a few Sonic discussions on this show. I haven't done it, but I am certain that if I went back and listened to that right now, I called this movie completely, like to a T. I knew this movie played out exactly how I imagined this movie was going to play out. And to be fair, it's totally harmless. Like, I'm not like irate and angry and ready. You know what I mean? It's harmless. It's a kid's movie. Cool. It just played out exactly the way I expected this movie to play out. Like, it's just it nailed every trope you could possibly nail when you're doing that thing where you're like, you remember that thing from people's childhoods? Let's turn it into a movie. Yeah. It just followed that formula step by step all the way through.
Yeah. I don't care that I don't like it.
Yeah.
At all. Like, that movie can exist and it doesn't offend me. And I was a Sega guy. Like, I was a Sega kid.
Yeah.
But man, that movie, and I can recognize that movie was not made for me.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But I did not enjoy any moment of that movie.
None of it.
None of it, man.
Well, okay, I will say that I definitely had chuckle moments. I got excited for my kids sometimes while I was watching it. But you didn't have any moments?
I mean, there was jokes that I went, like there were jokes that made me do that.
What about that Sega intro at the beginning? What did that do for you? Did that get you all nice and nostalgic?
No, it made me laugh because it was so.
They're like, look,
Marvel.
We can do a Marvel Studios intro.
Exactly.
I think I missed that.
Yeah, the movie starts with like them showing flashes of a bunch of Sega Genesis games, and then it folds out into like a Sega logo.
Oh yeah, I totally
it goes Sega. Yeah, it did that whole thing at the beginning.
See it again now.
So I laughed at that.
You laughed at it. I thought it was cool because I was sitting there going, "Hey," I was like, "Hey," seeing
if I thought
Golden Axe and stuff like that was flashing on the screen.
Any chance we were going to get like a Sega cinematic universe?
Oh my god!
You know what I mean? Like,
Golden Axe is next, please. Let's do it. Yeah.
I just like the idea of I don't even know if he's an editor or an executive or what he is, but I just like the idea of the guy sitting in the back like putting this together and showing it on screen and being like, just like the Marvel movies, we got this. We got it.
If you don't think there was somebody sitting back there going, "Hey, we need a intro like the Marvel movies intro," like if you can grab some screen captures of like old video games and then they become like the logo, and we'll get like a choir to do like the Sega, like then you're like it wasn't like they just accidentally like, what if we just grab some pictures?
No, for sure, but like it's the idea of that guy going $100 million.
Got it.
Nailed it. Weekend, we're done.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like they probably thought, like, with as much buzz as was generated by that first trailer and the uproar for the way Sonic looked, that was bad enough for them to change it. Yeah. I think they probably thought they had a huge, like, whoa, I didn't know this many people cared about Sonic. We're going to be printing money. We're going to have a whole Sega cinematic universe on our hands. We better get a new logo.
Get it going now.
We better have some post-credit scenes. This is going to be our Iron Man.
For the record, this thing made a ton of money.
I know, which is fine.
I'm happy about that. Honestly, I am. Like we talked about the scandal of them having to redo Sonic was an amazing story, and the fact that they actually went back, postponed this movie for a year or whatever, did what the fans wanted. I will always give them credit for that. I happily paid my way to go see this movie because they did that. You know what I mean?
I only saw that movie because I knew we were going to talk about it. I
was thrilled. Yeah. I was excited to go see it, and my kid was real excited to see it too. I mean, he's been talking about it since the trailer came out, so I was real excited because he was excited, and I was like, man, this is going to be so much fun. And I don't know. I just left it was not as fun as I was hoping it was going to be.
I'll play minority voice here.
You're in, John.
I thoroughly enjoyed that movie.
Awesome.
Like a bunch, and I didn't know what to expect going in. I wasn't like super hyped for it. That first trailer scared the bejesus out of me. And then we had our discussion about what it could be, except I remember having those talks. I don't remember when they were, which ones I were a part of and which ones I just listened to, all that stuff. But I just remember like a lot of those ideas going, yeah, that could be cool. Well, yeah, we'll see how it plays. Like neither of that's make nor break or whatever. So I really had no preconceived notions walking into this movie, except for usually when they delay a movie for 8 months to fix it, they don't fix it, you know? This one just being a visual thing might have been a little different. But then when I watched it, they did do a lot of those tropes. They start you off on his home planet, and they build up like
he's baby Sonic.
Yeah, he's a little baby Sonic, and they build up this character I've never heard of before, which is this giant eagle that watched him or whatever.
Or an owl or something.
Yeah, I was like, okay, interesting where they're going with this. Let's see where it goes. And then they completely forget about that for the rest of the movie.
Yep.
Which I found interesting. But at the end of the day, it turned into basically a buddy road trip movie.
Yep.
With characters that I enjoyed.
Yep.
Jokes that made me laugh. The overall story wasn't anything that was groundbreaking by any means. But I feel like the biggest problem a lot of video game movies have had for the decades they've been trying to make, most of them, is that they spend so much time trying to take all these aspects of the game and just cram them onto the screen that they don't really care what the package looks like at all. This wasn't master cinema by any means storytelling-wise, but it got you from point A to point B, told some jokes along the way. I enjoyed sitting there the whole time. I laughed quite a bit. I liked most of the actors involved there. I did think it was funny that they got Neil McDonough to come in and do 8 seconds worth of screen time.
Oh, yeah.
Like I kept waiting for him to show back up, and then the credits were rolling.
I know, right? Yeah.
I was mildly excited for Jim Carrey because I grew up in the Jim Carrey era, so I was kind of excited to see him do that again. He was a little disappointing to me.
He seemed like he was phoning it in.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like he had no Jim Carrey energy at all.
He was doing all the Jim Carrey stuff with none of the Jim Carrey energy, for sure.
And that's the exactly what I thought about it. Like I watched him do it, and I'm like, I feel like this is I don't feel like this is Jim Carrey. I feel like this is somebody doing a decent Jim Carrey impression. Like it's not terrible, it's not awful, but it's not the real thing either.
It was the Lion King version of Jim Carrey.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they CGI'd Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
He was dead-eyed.
Exactly.
He had no expression.
Oh, man.
But he looked lifelike, and he did all the Jim Carrey stuff.
Exactly. Like, he went through the motions. He just didn't care to be there. But, they did some of the time stoppage stuff that was reminiscent of what they did with Quicksilver in some of the X-Men movies. Where, like I enjoyed those scenes. They didn't make any sense in the movies. But when you put them into a movie that already pretty much doesn't make any sense anyway, I could enjoy those scenes a lot better. I thought the stuff they did with the rings was kind of cool. It was a good reason to have the rings there without him just running around and grabbing them out of thin air and everything like that. And again, I'm overhyping it now because I'm sort of playing counterpoint here.
Right.
Like, this movie didn't make my year. No. I'm not going to go see it 10 times by any means. Walking into a movie where you go, there's a high probability I'm going to hate everything I see, but maybe I'll get lucky and it'll be pretty good. I was really excited by the fact that I was entertained for an hour and 40 minutes. I was pretty happy.
I was not. I was not entertained.
So
you also have like a weird Marsden thing.
I do have
Like,
I don't find it that weird.
I think that probably plays into it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not weird, but you just
for whatever reason, if you put James Marsden in your movie, you jump a solid 12 to 15% on my rating.
On the John-ometer?
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and broach my big criticism of the movie.
Sure.
Because it's not... I can accept that movie is not for me. Mm-hmm. It's a very kid-centric movie, and I am very not into kid movies or kid shows or anything like that.
Right.
Even all the stuff we watch here, like it's, a lot of it I'm like, I can appreciate this for what it is.
Right.
I don't like it. You know?
Right. Dan's always talking about He-Man. I mean...
well, I like the She-Ra show. Like, I enjoyed the new She-Ra.
Yeah.
Even though it's pretty kiddie.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. This, and that's why I say, like, I'm fine with this existing. Like, I know it was made for kids, and that's cool. So I work with kids, and I take kids to see movies. Mm-hmm. And we go to see a lot of kids' movies. Like, I saw Minions. I've seen some recently. Like Trolls.
Oh, yeah.
I went and saw Trolls.
I've seen those a ton. I've seen Trolls so many times. You have no idea. Spencer loves that movie and watched it on repeat, dude.
I'm sorry, brother.
On repeat.
There's one other that I wanted to point out, but I'm not going to try to think of it because it won't come to me right now. But I sit in those theaters and I'm like, this is awful. What are we watching right now? Who thought this is acceptable? Except I'm in a theater full of kids, and the kids are laughing and having a good time and enjoying it.
Yep.
And, the character says something stupid, and I go, ugh, but the kids go, wah, he said this.
Yeah.
Oh, Mommy, did you hear him? And like I hear that, and I'm like, okay, well, at least it's working on that level.
Right.
I was in a theater full of kids for Sonic. It was silent.
Yeah?
There was no laughter. There was no, oh, look at Sonic. Oh, the little blue guy did this. There was nothing. It was silent. And there was a lot of kids in the theater. It was I just saw it today. It was like an afternoon show on a Sunday. There was a lot of kids in that theater.
Yeah.
And they were silent. There was nothing.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Bummer.
There was no tittering, no laughing, no nothing. And so that made me feel like it wasn't landing for them either. And that's my big criticism of the movie is that it didn't seem like the kids liked it.
Well, I guess to support that a little bit, we took Spencer to go see it because, like I said, he was so excited and he kept asking us when this movie was coming out. So we were real thrilled because we surprised him with the movie on Valentine's Day. He didn't know he was going to go see a movie. So we were cool. We did the thing where we bought him a Sonic action figure and we were like, Happy Valentine's Day. And he was like, oh, Sonic toy. And then we pulled up to the theater and we were like, surprise. So he was excited and I was excited. And we was like, yeah, we get to see this movie. We want to see a good 25% of the way into the movie. He lays his head down on me and he's like, I could tell he's starting to fall asleep. And I was like, hey, no. You got to stay awake because we're not going to get another chance to see this again. And he goes, why? And I was like, bud, it's going to get good, okay? Stay awake. It's going to get cool, I promise. He's like, okay. And he stayed awake and he sat there. And then he leaned back over to me a little while later and he just goes, when's the cool stuff going to happen? And I was like, oh no. And then he just started playing with his toy, and I had to keep like shushing him because he just kept leaning over going zoom zoom and making Sonic run across the back of the seat in front of him, and I was going, oh no, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. Like, now, to be fair, it did finally get his interest once we got to some of the funnier stuff. He did really. I mean, he loved seeing Sonic, and I don't feel like he got enough of that, honestly. And that, I think that kind of goes back to the
how did he?
Well, he didn't get
a lot of Sonic.
There was a lot of
Sonic. A lot of Sonic.
I don't think he got enough of the. I don't think he got enough of the. Okay, so one of the things he said to me while we were walking into the theater is, "Are Sonic's friends going to be in the movie? I really hope we see Tails and Knuckles." Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, kid, but I knew that there was a good chance that we weren't going to see them. So I was like, I don't know. I hope so. So I think he was really disappointed that all the people he didn't know weren't there, because he watches the cartoons on Netflix all the time.
Yep.
So he knows the characters real well because of that. And I don't think he got enough of the actual, like, Sonic action stuff and his friends. Like, I think he was instantly disappointed that it wasn't that stuff.
Yeah.
And to go back to the whole tropes thing, like, when I was watching this movie, the only thing I can think of was stuff like the Super Mario Brothers movie when it came out when we were kids. Because it did that thing where, like, it had some things that were kind of reminiscent of the thing that we loved.
Right.
But it was its own thing entirely, right? So, like, Sonic had, like, the town they were in was called Green Hills, right? The Green Hill Zone is stage 1 in Sonic. And he even had a road sign that said, like, Spring Hills or something like that way, which is another level, Spring Hill Zone. And, like, just all the stuff they did in that movie were, like, nods. Like, they did little bitty nods to things that we know from the games.
He called Robotnik an egg.
He kept calling Robotnik, and he told him he looked like an Eggman.
Yep.
He ate the chili dogs at the bar. Well, I mean, some of the stuff I enjoyed. Like, they did the thing too, like the one time they did the slow-mo thing. He looked at his watch and tapped his foot. Yep. And I was like, well, that's straight out of the video games, and that's fun. And I also appreciated too, like we were talking about the rings. He had the bag of rings. They did the thing where, like, when he got hit by Robotnik and dropped them, the rings went flying out everywhere, and I was like, okay, that's fun. That's like when you get hit in the game and the rings go everywhere. So they did little things like that, which were cool and they were fun. But the rest of the movie was that thing where they were like, well, let's take a character, pull him out of his video game, put him in the real world on Earth, make him hang out with a bunch of humans, focus a whole bunch on what's going on with the humans. And then all that stuff from the video games, we'll throw in little teasers here and there, but then we will end the movie with, now we're here, guys. Now we're at the video game stuff you were all waiting for, which is exactly what things like the Mario Brothers movie did back in the 90s. You know what I mean? It reminds me of that. Yeah. And that's what I was talking about, where I feel like that this movie did exactly what we were saying it felt like it was going to do. Because when we watched that first trailer, the thing we were saying was, did they just straight make a 90s movie?
Yeah.
Because that's what it looked like. And it's what they did.
For sure.
It is totally what they did here. Even that scene, like, we totally called it with that Robotnik scene.
Yeah.
Because they show that in the trailer where Jim Carrey looks like the video game Dr. Robotnik. And we were like, I bet that's a thing that happens real fast at the very end of the movie.
Yep.
Surprise! It is. It's a thing that shows up at the very end of the movie. It's
Spoiler
the first time
alert.
we see it. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is an all spoiler podcast, guys.
My favorite part is that every time that happens in an episode, whoever's in the middle of talking stops and goes, "Oh wait, we are doing the spoiler."
Yeah, it's all spoilers. Yep.
Hey, so what was up with, like, the all mushroom world? And they kept talking about how terrible the all mushroom world is.
I kept
That's
feeling
totally a Mario Bros.
I felt like that
assumption.
had to be a Mario jab, right? It's the only thing I was thinking about.
We don't want to get trapped in the hellscape of Nintendo.
Yeah. Like, are they just making fun of Mario, the Mushroom Kingdom this whole time? Like, that's what it felt like.
So in the movie, spoiler alert, when he gets found out on Earth, Sonic's gonna have to jump to the next world, which is this all mushroom world. And so they spend the whole movie with him talking about how horrible it's going to be when he has to go to this world that's nothing but mushrooms. And then, giant mushrooms everywhere.
And then that's where Robotnik ends up at the end. Trapped in the mushroom world.
Right.
Dude, that had to have been a jab, right?
Which is hilarious.
I mean, it is funny.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing I thought of, too. I was like, wait, so we're just ribbing on the Mushroom Kingdom here? Yeah. That had to be what's going on. Oh, man. And you were talking about the Quicksilver thing. They did it too much in this movie, man. And I feel like that...
They did it like twice.
They did it like 3 times, at least, right? The slow motion thing.
I remember the thing when he...
So they did it in the bar. They did it in the bar. They did it at the end. And wasn't there one more, too? I don't know. Either way, I don't like how that's like the way that Hollywood does fast-running stuff now.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a guy running fast. You're freezing time. And then you're moving the guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's...
and it was totally...
Things were still moving, though.
Well, but for him, it seemed to me still like it was totally freezing time, because there was times he was still, like, being super fast when everyone else was frozen. You know, it wasn't like...
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I get it. I know it's a fun gag.
The only time that's ever worked for me was in Over the Hedge. Did you ever see that?
I don't think I saw Over the Hedge.
In Over the Hedge, there's this squirrel that is super hyperactive and talks real fast and runs real fast the whole time.
Okay.
And then, like, in the climax, somebody gives him an energy drink, like a Monster or Red Bull or something.
Okay.
And he drinks this energy drink, and everything stops. and it's just him, like, walking. And then he's walking real casual at that point, and, like, he's doing the Quicksilver thing and saving all his friends and stuff.
Right.
But that's the only time it's ever worked.
That's
for me.
funny.
I never like it when Quicksilver does it. I didn't like it in this movie.
I don't think it's a bad gag. I just felt like, I don't know. I don't like that that's just the way we do fast things now. Because they do it with the Flash, too. Didn't they do it with the Justice League Flash?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one worked for me, too, but only because that was...
Well, the Superman thing was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
See? I mean, it works
Well,
sometimes.
and that was my point with it in this movie. In this movie, it was fun because it didn't matter.
You're right. Okay.
You know, like I said, like
and
the X-Men
fair.
ones, it took me out of the X-Men movie and put me into this other thing that it didn't work in. Like, it didn't work with the rest of the movie.
Sure.
In this movie, a lot of those rules were stretched anyway, so when they do that scene and just play it for a gag, I can just take it as a gag and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Didn't work for me.
When he went all supersonic, I wish he would have gone full-blown supersonic and turned gold.
Yeah.
That'd have been
I was waiting for it. I was like... Oh, it's happening. They didn't go all the way. Yeah. Dang it. I was a little disappointed because it felt like they were setting it up. Like, it looked like he was doing the supersonic thing, and then they didn't go all the way.
You know, I also kind of didn't like that because, one of those things, like, I'm not going to harp on it, but...
Sure.
You know, because I don't care about this movie at all, but... Like, Sonic didn't have those... You know, Sonic never shot lightning.
Right, the electricity
Sonic,
thing.
I mean?
Well, that's another, like... I feel like that's another Hollywood super fast thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, we got to throw lightning and electricity everywhere. They did the same thing with the Flash in the Justice League. Yeah. And we complained about that, too. I don't get it. I wanted so bad, like, for that end fight, I wanted a big old wrecking ball to drop out of the bottom of Robotnik's ship and him start swinging it around. Awesome. I just wanted that so bad, dude. So the end credit scene happened though, right?
Yep.
Tails shows up in the end credit scene, and that was cool. And that was a real neat moment of like actual excitement for me, because as soon as like we heard the voice, Spencer goes, "Daddy, that's Tails. Daddy, is that Tails?" And I was like doing this with Spencer. I was like, I think it's Tails, son. And then Tails showed up, and he got so excited. And so I was really excited. But it was so funny because he immediately goes, "Now we got to wait for number 2." He did that. It was great. It was so funny. But then...
I hope we never get a number 2. So he knows my pain of when Daisy comes back at the end of Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, we got to go back.
You're never going to believe this.
Hey.
I'm still waiting to believe.
Hey.
So I hope he has to deal with that and never gets to see Tails.
Come on, Jaron. Time's going to tell on that one.
Well, when I get Super Mario Brothers 2,
then he can have Sonic.
Then he can have Sonic.
So the last thing I want to say then about this is tailing off of that. We were in the car. Me and Spencer were in the car. We're driving to the restaurant, and I'm talking to him about the movie, and I'm asking him questions about it. And I was like, "Hey, bud, so what was your favorite part of the movie?" And he goes, "When Tails showed up." And I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome. And then he was just talking about how like he hopes that number 2 is coming soon because he wants to say Tails. And then he goes, so Daddy, I think in number 2 it's going to be Sonic and Tails and hopefully Knuckles, and probably Amy should be there too. I don't really like Amy, but Amy's Sonic's friend, so she should be there too. But none of the people. Sonic doesn't need the people anymore. Like that's what he said, and I was like, okay, well there is the 6-year-old's review of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. He wanted more Tails, more Knuckles, and less humans. Now I keep asking him about it now, and he keeps telling me he liked it, and I'm sure that like when it's on streaming, he's probably going to turn it on a bunch. You know what I mean?
That was the thing with because my kids didn't react hardly at all, but they hardly ever react.
Right?
Like they're not like me when it comes to like they don't get excited about this stuff
right
when it happens. And I was also in a theater full of people that were the kids were fairly quiet through most of the movie because I got kind of the same impression because in general the only person I heard laughing was me.
Right.
But when the movie ended, there was a bunch of kids I heard because we were sitting right in the back, so everybody kind of walked back and they were all walking out talking about it. Yeah. And so that, I mean, I think that can go either way because sometimes when the kids are quiet, it's because they're bored, but a lot of times when they get bored, they get hyperactive. Yeah. Sometimes when they're quiet, it's because they're paying attention. Mine in general just don't react one way or the other. But I did ask them about it afterwards, and they do the same thing they always do. Yeah, it was good. And you're like, I can't garner anything from that guy. Yeah, but the only thing I had was on the way home. On the way home, my son started asking when we could watch it at home, like on the TV and stuff. Like, when are we going to be able to see it at home? And I'm like, I mean, it'll be several months, but if he's asking to watch it again already, I think he must have enjoyed it.
Probably a good sign. Yeah, well, of course.
The one thing I will point out, I mean, it's probably not a bad sign. You will not be able to convince me that like these kids were so enraptured that they were paying attention.
No,
you know,
and
they were too busy paying attention to laugh at any of the silly stuff Sonic was doing.
No, and that's not exactly my point either. My point was only like there are two ways to look at any of that stuff because when they are too bored, they do get wild.
That's fine. That's fine. Kids don't always know they can dislike stuff, you know? Like some of my big milestones in life are realizing that, like, I don't have to like I don't have to eat peas. I don't have to eat pumpkin pie. You know, like those are huge milestones that I still reference back to in my life.
I think I was probably, like, 35 the day I realized that, like, I don't have to finish this book just because I started it.
Yeah.
You know? That was, like, the grandest of all days. Right. Like, I can just put this down and do a different book.
Yeah. Oh man, it did well though, right? Yep. Sonic made a bunch of money.
Yeah, I think they were projecting around 40 million and hit about 57. Yeah. And through
we're gonna get a sequel.
Yeah, through Monday they're projecting 68, so they're pretty happy with that.
I have a feeling it'll be one of those that has like a steep drop off.
You think it'll drop off?
Probably not one that is like where they'll announce. You know, like with Justice League, it was like noticeable and people talked about it and announced it. I doubt we'll hear about it, but I imagine it has a pretty steep drop off.
It's in a good time of year because there's not a whole lot that happens between February and like May. Like there'll be a few big names that open here and there, but I haven't checked the rest of February or anything or into March. But there's not a whole ton coming out in the next couple of weeks at least that are going to combat it. But that's that's good planning on their part too. There.
Yep.
Well, one of my favorite victims of the big change with Sonic is that some of the I've seen like Toy Fair's coming up next weekend, New York Toy Fair, and some of the images have popped out of some of the product that's coming out to coincide with this movie. It's all the old Sonic design on the toys. And I was just like, as soon as I saw that, that realization washed over me going, oh no, it was too late for them to change the toys. Yeah. So we're going to get all this merchandise with that ugly Sonic that is not in the movie.
That's a funny thing, too, because when that trailer came out, I went, And then when the new one came out, I went, it looks much better. But I didn't have a clear image of what that meant in my head because I couldn't, like, specifically identify on the tiny blue hedgehog what... You know, like I couldn't describe it to myself, therefore my brain wouldn't wrap around what it was. Sure. But just today when we got home, I went and just watched a side-by-side comparison, as that. And man, when you see them on the same screen at the same time, you're like, oh, goodness gracious. That is horrifying.
Yeah, it was bad, dude.
And,
it was bad.
Yeah, and we talked about that at some point, too, the fact that it's like, I don't know if they're fixing the movie or if they're just fixing the design. But I don't think it mattered. Like, I think this movie that I thoroughly enjoyed, had I watched it with that other design, I wouldn't have been able to. Because when it hurts to watch the screen, you don't care about the jokes, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the Irishman problem, pretty much. Yeah.
Right. Oh, man. All right. Well, that's Sonic the Hedgehog, so feel free to let us know what you guys thought of it.
Did you guys know that Over the Hedge opened on May 19th in 2006?
May 19th!
Exactly. It
opened against See No Evil.
Yep.
No idea.
Yep.
Which one did better?
Those two and the Da Vinci Code.
I wouldn't even.
And the Da Vinci Code did better.
Big day for movies.
Yeah.
Kane went up against Tom Hanks.
So there's your random trivia.
Hey, Over the Hedge is good.
Yeah, Over the Hedge is great.
Go check that out.
I saw that on May 20th, 2006.
I recommend checking that out over Sonic.
I don't feel like I've ever seen that one.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I never saw. There's a sequel, Rad. I never saw the sequel.
I don't know there was a sequel.
Pretty sure there's
all
a sequel.
sequels.
I took my
Yeah, if animated movies make $1 over their budget,
they get a sequel.
They make $1.
It's at least
profit.
direct to video somewhere.
Yeah. There's another Minions,
but I don't remember
movie
Bruce Willis
out.
being in it or
that?
anything.
I kind of like those though. I'll be real. I kind of like the Despicable Me movies.
I've only seen a couple of them. I don't know that I've ever sat down and watched one all the way through. I've seen
I know a lot of people
large
hate the
chunks of several of them.
I really like
Or a couple
Despicable
of them.
Me. I think I like Despicable Me 2. I did not see Despicable Me 3. Minions was a step way down.
Sure. So this one's like a sequel to that.
Yeah.
But now Gru's back because now it's he's Kid Gru. So it's like, because the end of Minions, spoiler alert, I guess. The end of Minions is when they met Gru, and Gru's a kid. So now they're doing a sequel to that, where the Minions are hanging out with Kid Gru as he's aspiring to become a supervillain. And honestly, it looks kind of fun. Like, the trailer made me laugh. So,
yeah. Well, that's the thing with all these movies. Like, every time one of those comes out, I look at it and I go, that looks like it could be enjoyable. And I'm not going to. Like, I'm 7 or 8 movies behind now.
Despicable Me 3 had Trey Parker in it, and he was like the 80s.
Was he the bad guy?
He was like the
That's one I've seen.
What was his name? But he was like an 80s inspired bad guy, and he was hilarious. Like, I loved it. All right, so let's move on to some DC movie discussion. It feels like it's been a while. Let's talk about Birds of Prey, or what is it?
It's Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn,
or if we go by
something like that,
or if we go by the
or something like
or if we go by the new title, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey.
Yeah,
because they changed the name of the movie,
which is what it should have been titled in the first place.
Yes, after seeing this movie, they should have just called this movie Harley Quinn. Yeah.
I like that they thought that the reason it bombed was like, I don't know if anybody knows that Harley Quinn's in it.
Yeah.
I think they know.
Yeah,
you know, like if they care at all to know, then they know. That's not your problem.
Well,
the rest of your marketing is part of your problem. Yeah. A large part of your problem is your last 11 movies. Those haven't helped.
Yep.
But it's not that nobody knows Harley Quinn's in it.
Right. So I guess we should start there, right? Like, this movie's doing real bad. Right?
Real bad.
Yeah. Wasn't it like the lowest grossing of the DC movies or something like that?
Probably.
I think they were. I think I said.
Records, but
I think I was reading that it was lower than Green Lantern, and I think Green Lantern was their lowest grossing before.
That would actually surprise me, but that's probably true. But it would surprise me a little, just because Green Lantern originally came out, they didn't have the ill will that they had built up by then, and it was a big superhero movie with Ryan Reynolds. I would have assumed it had opened halfway decent and then tanked afterwards, but I don't remember specifically. I wouldn't argue you for sure. I would just be surprised.
I read an article that said that was only in the States, though, that it actually did really well overseas.
This one did?
Harley Quinn? Yeah. Harley Quinn.
Okay. So after seeing this movie...
save us, rest of the world.
I was going to say, after I saw this movie, I feel like this is one that is going to do better because of word of mouth and or after it gets released and people start like watching it on streaming or Blu-ray, DVD or whatever. because I had a hell of a good time watching this movie.
I really like this movie.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Thoroughly, start to finish.
Yes.
Yeah. It jumped up to probably my favorite DC movie.
Wow. Yeah? All the way up there?
All the way. Right away.
It's so much better than Suicide Squad was by miles.
Yeah. Infinitely.
It's just...
And it did all... I felt like it did all the things that Suicide Squad wanted to do, but, like, better. You know, because Suicide Squad tried to do the Guardians thing where it had the... Like, it kind of integrated, like, recognizable songs.
Yes.
This movie had a lot of recognizable songs that would pop up.
Suicide Squad had 32 songs in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Suicide Squad tried to do the thing where, like, you know, you have your squad of anti-heroes that kind of come together and rally for the cause.
Yeah.
Only they just... It was just not like you didn't feel, you know what I mean? Like they did that, but you were kind of like, okay, guys, let's just get to the finish already.
Right.
And I felt like this kind of brought everybody together smoothly and organically, and there was still kind of a moment for me where I was like, we're just agreeing to this because it's the finish, but that's fine. Let's do it, you know? But it still felt more organic and made more sense and was more true to the characters than Suicide Squad for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you guys notice we got to the end of this movie and there was no giant CG monster?
Yeah. No CG, nothing, dude. Like,
it was awesome.
I think the most CG we saw in the movie was probably that hyena, and that hyena was awesome.
Hyena was great.
Bruce. She named him after that rich guy.
The way I felt about it, like, Suicide Squad tried real hard to be Guardians of the Galaxy and failed miserably.
Yep.
And I felt like this was trying, pretty hard to be like a Deadpool movie and performed admirably.
Yeah.
It had like these similar themes and styles to it that definitely were reminiscent of some of that stuff, except it didn't look like a toned down, stupid version of it. It just looked like something that was sort of similar, but also entertaining.
Right. It's a hard R for sure. They dropped the F-bomb a ton. There's a lot of violence, like real hardcore, like violence in this movie. Like you see lots of snapping limbs and lots of gunshots to the head. I mean, they go all in on the violence and stuff. Mm-hmm. But, man, like, the ride is so bonkers in this movie. Like, and it's, I don't know, like, it's so perfect of the character. I feel like that's one of the things that was so good about the writing of it, because... So, like, they present the whole movie as Harley Quinn telling the story.
Yep.
And as a result of that, the pacing of the movie is kind of manic. Yes. It's crazy. Yes. It's all over the place.
It plays so fun.
She forgets to tell you parts, so you go back so that you can get the parts that she forgot to tell you. And it's a little crazy because you're going all over the place and back and forth, but it's a fun ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they find a way to make it real fun and string it all together, and then when you finally get yourself caught up to where you know the whole story of what's going on, you're excited and you're ready to see the climax. And
there were several parts, mostly in the beginning, I'd say, where I was watching it, and I do go into these movies a little bit jaded because I've seen a bunch of these DC movies.
Yeah.
That's just sort of where we are, you know? So I'm sure I had some of that at the beginning, but especially early on, there were several parts where I'd watch something happen, and I'd either go, okay, I don't know about that, but fine. Or I'd go, I wouldn't have done it that way. I think they could have done something a little different there, whatever. But every time, even when I would have that reaction to a scene, I would notice that I was still smiling.
Yeah.
And by, a third to halfway into the movie at most, I just sort of stopped caring about any of that stuff.
That's the thing.
Because I'm being so entertained, it doesn't matter. Which, again, is what I've always said about, like, give me a good movie and I'll let some of this stuff go. I don't have to nitpick everything. But if I'm not having fun, then I'm going to look at every scene that's upsetting me and go, like one by one.
That's a big part of it, right?
Yeah, and I had fun. This entire movie, start to finish, was a blast.
I really enjoyed a lot of the fight choreography in this movie.
Best.
I feel like the fight scenes were real good.
Yeah.
I really specifically. I enjoyed the scene where she broke into the police station. I thought that was super fun. But I loved the prison fight, like where the sprinkler systems were going off, and like she had that big fight with all the prisoners, like with the water raining down. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. Yeah. It was just so cool. Like, I thought that was so fun.
All of the fight choreography was so stylized, but so well done, and like the physics were comic booky but consistent.
Yeah,
and everybody, even when they got to the end, it was sort of like everybody going on their own. They all had their own like sort of style to it, but Harley was the one that was most often centered on, and even her fighting style was this like manic, like totally unpredictable. But the choreography, like you said, you rarely see anything quite like that when they're doing action scenes in movies, because everything's either shot so tight you can't really tell what's going on, or it's so broad based that you're kind of like looking at specs or something like it. But this was right in there. I mean, it was like watching a video game through part of it, except for beautifully performed.
Yeah.
And just blew you away every time they'd start into a battle scene. They used weapons effectively and entertainingly. She had a bat through that one scene where she picks it up and she's just waylaying and leveling these dudes
instead of the katana or the chainsaw.
Yeah, exactly. Like all these like weapons she could pick that are obvious, and she gets real excited because there's a bat through, and then just starts leveling these guys with it. And at the end, she even does, I can't even describe it, but she does this thing where she like throws the bat and it bounces and chucks off this dude and then bounces off of him and like right back to her, and it sounds so ridiculous if you were to try to describe it, or looked kind of ridiculous even as you were watching it, but it played so smooth that by the time she caught it and was just standing there, you're just like, ooh, yeah,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, man. Ewan McGregor was wonderful. Wonderful. So good. It was cool seeing Black Mask, first of all, as a villain in the movie.
That's one of those, like, I don't know what the Black Mask is supposed to be like, so I don't know if he was a good Black Mask or not, but he was awesome in this movie.
He was so good in this movie. Yeah, man. I mean, I've always been a big fan of him anyway, but man, dude, like his character was just great, and he had that charming thing going on, but he had the little bit of the edge, and he was a little crazy, and he'd have his crazy like outbursts and breakdowns, and
he's like bipolar.
Yeah, and he was just so fun to watch. And then like Zaz was hanging out with him as his bodyguard, so we got like, it was neat that they threw in all these fun comic book stuff.
Yep.
Good Gotham nods for everybody there, which was really cool. Did you notice? I'd pointed out to Jaren, noticed it too in the police department when she was going to break the kid out. She pointed at that wanted poster and goes, "Hey, I know him." It was Captain Boomerang was on the poster.
Oh, really?
Did you notice that?
I didn't catch that.
She was like, "Hey, I know him." I thought that was really fun. I love when they do little things like
for sure.
that. But
well, that's a nod back to Suicide, because he
was
runs
in
away at the end of Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember him dying.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
He definitely didn't die. I don't remember if he. I thought he escaped at the end. Like when they were trying.
I feel like that's right.
I need to.
So long since I've seen it.
I was gonna say I haven't watched Suicide Squad in a while, but so Ewan McGregor was fantastic.
Not good.
It was.
I like that. I used to like review that movie well because I enjoy looking at that movie.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but it is not a good movie.
So the Birds of Prey themselves weren't in it a whole lot. Like we did get a little more Black Canary in this. Huntress was like kind of there, and then we didn't really get to see much of Huntress until the end. I thought the little joke they did with her was kind of fun. How like everybody kept calling her the crossbow killer, and she was mad because she wanted to be called the Huntress. I thought that was silly, but I was okay with that. I thought that was fun. But they basically treated this as an origin movie of sorts for Black Canary and Huntress, because I mean, like, essentially the movie ends with her saying something like that they're a team now and they call themselves the Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
So, like, and Huntress was wearing, like, her mask thing at the end that she wears in the comics and stuff. So it was like an origin story, which is why I feel like they should have just called this movie Harley Quinn. Because it was absolutely a Harley movie more than it had anything to do with them. But
which would have been fine. I don't think it would have changed the box office.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think so.
That's why it's so silly when they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
What
if week 2 we call it Harley Quinn? Well, we'll make $100 million easy.
Wasn't the bird? Okay, so I haven't read a lot of Birds of Prey. I know that there was an old series for Birds of Prey. Mm-hmm. Wasn't the Oracle involved with that?
Yeah,
wasn't that Barbara Gordon?
The series was Huntress. I almost wanted to say it was White Canary, but maybe it was Black Canary. No, it was Black Canary in the series, and then Oracle in this series. But that was one of those old like WCW or WB
Right.
or whatever.
I remember.
UPN, whatever station it was at the time.
Right.
It was on there. It was only about a half a season, and Harley Quinn was actually the big bad in that, sort of.
Really?
But she was Harleen Quinzel. I don't think she was ever actually Harley Quinn.
She was just the doctor?
Yeah, but she was like the doctor, and I think she was like the Huntress's therapist or something like that. But she was like controlling the bad stuff from behind. I don't remember the details. I just remember I watched the show. It's just been 15, 20 years or whatever it was.
I never watched it.
And I thought it was really cool that she was the bad guy. It just never went anywhere because the show got canceled like 10 episodes in.
Right. I just thought I remembered that Barbara Gordon had something to do with Birds of Prey.
It was Dina Meyer.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that there's a Birds of Prey.
Name, right?
Yep.
Okay. Good. See, say it with confidence.
Well, I know that there's a Birds of Prey comic series. I've never read any of it, so I really have very little knowledge of it. So if there's anything in this that, like the fans of the comics think is wrong, obviously I don't know. I don't have any connection there with that, but. I don't know. I really enjoyed what I watched. I just thought it was fun and wacky and, like, I don't know, kind of exactly what I would expect out of a movie about Harley Quinn.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep. It was like the comic book movie. It was like the crank of comic book movies.
The crank of comic book
was
movies.
it totally the crank of comic book movies?
Yeah.
Except for the end.
Except for the end.
Well, and really what you guys were saying too about Deadpool is a perfect analogy. Honestly, like it's DC's Deadpool movie, and I mean honestly, Harley kind of ranks up there as a Deadpool style character anyway. She's she's the big popular anti-hero character that everybody loves, and that's exactly what Deadpool is. And like you said, I mean they did the same kind of movie, but it doesn't feel like a knockoff or a cheap imitation.
Yeah.
It feels like a really well done movie in the same kind of style, the same vein.
If you do it well, that's fine. So, like in this case, when I say, like, man, the movie really wanted to be Deadpool, I don't mean that as an insult by any means.
Sure.
Whereas with Suicide Squad, when I say, man, the movie really wanted to be Guardians of the Galaxy, I do mean it as an insult because they sucked at it.
And there you go.
I liked this movie better than any of the Deadpool movies.
Yeah. Did you? You liked it better than Deadpool's?
It's hard for me to rank something walking out of it, but I mean, it's definitely top 4 for DC movies for me, at least, because there's only been 4 that I've liked. I can almost guarantee you it's probably top 2, but time will tell on that one when I let it settle in for a little while. Same route there. I don't think I liked it as much as the Deadpool movies, but also... You know, I really enjoyed the Deadpool movies. I didn't get into them quite as much as the general viewing public did to that level. So, you know, a couple more viewings and 6 months go by, I might be right there with you.
Yeah, I definitely liked it better. I've never been a huge fan of the Deadpool. They're fine. I like the Deadpools just fine. But I'm definitely not on like the level the general public seems to be with those movies. And I liked this a lot better. I have a hard time wanting to say that I liked it better than Wonder Woman, which is my favorite DC movie right now. Mm-hmm. And I have a hard time saying that I don't like it better than Aquaman, which is my number 2.
Okay.
So like I'm pretty sure this is my second favorite DC movie.
And that I'm real similar with that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty positive I do like it more than Aquaman, which was my 3. Mm-hmm. I would be willing to assume I probably liked it more than Shazam, which I liked a lot more than you, I know, as it went. Wonder Woman's the one I'm stumbling on, too. If Wonder Woman didn't end with a giant CG monster fight, I would be very confident in saying that Wonder Woman would retain my top spot.
Yeah.
Given how that went down, though, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if I did end up deciding I like this one the best after a little while.
For sure.
Wonder Woman 84 looks awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Like they showed that trailer again tonight, and I've seen it before, but still, like, it gets me real excited when I watch that trailer.
Well, man, can you imagine if this movie doesn't end in a giant CG monster fight? It'll be unstoppable. You know, if she just fights Pedro Pascal instead of a tornado or God knows what,
or Cheetah. What's her name?
We see her lassoing from lightning bolt to lightning bolt, and in that big CGI armor with wings. We're definitely getting the big Wonder Woman CGI fight.
Yeah, you right.
I just for me, I just hope it's integrated a little better. Like I just feel like the first Wonder Woman there's such like a stopping point.
Yeah.
Where like,
well, like the movie ends, and then there's 20 minutes of a CG monster fight.
Yeah, for sure. And so like if it integrates it well, because that was the thing with Aquaman, I felt like it integrated. Like by the time we got to the big CG movie fight, it was fair. Like,
yeah, that's totally fair.
It just integrated well and just ran straight into it. So
and at least like with Aquaman's, it was more of like he wasn't fighting a giant CG monster or a giant CG tornado or whatever. Like, he was fighting another guy. They both just happened to be doing it in the middle of a giant CG tornado or whatever. So it played okay.
He showed up riding Godzilla, man. Like, that's...
Yeah, but he wasn't fighting Godzilla.
Okay, fair call.
So say they were definitely in the middle of this thing I didn't want to see them in the middle of, but at least there was the core battle still.
It's fair.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Is that where we're ending off with that then?
Yep. I think so. Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, huge recommend.
Yeah, I would definitely check it out. I don't know. Like, honestly, I've seen a lot of positive buzz on it from the people who have seen it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was seeing all those reports about, it's bombing at the box office. And I was like, I guess this is just going to be one of those movies.
And I heard almost all negative stuff.
Did you?
But I mean, I was avoiding any specifics. So maybe it was just a combination of bad box office and people making fun of it. Maybe it wasn't like direct reviews. I've only talked to a couple of people who actually, like, I know for sure saw it and gave me their flat out opinion.
Yep.
And I'd say 2 out of 3 liked it.
Yeah.
I think it was. So maybe the buzz is better than I realized it was going in, because I just kind of run under assumption sometimes.
Yeah.
When something tanks, and I had legitimate fears about it anyway, and then a few people start making fun of it. That line between they may or may not have actually seen it, they're just making fun of the performance, and they all hated it, starts to get really thin.
Right,
so
right.
I'm hoping it's that people do like it.
Me too. I really do think it's going to get a second wind, honestly.
For sure.
Very cool. All right. Well, before we end off the show today, we actually do have a few questions that we're going to bring up here from the Facebook page, which you guys can check out just by heading over to facebook.com and doing a search for Geek Easy Podcast. So if you haven't already, please follow us there, and that way you guys can interact with us and ask questions for future episodes. Now, unfortunately, some of the questions we have, I don't think we have really good answers for, because they're kind of like...
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, so we've had a few people ask, like 3 different people have asked for our thoughts on the TMNT versus Batman direct-to-video animated series or animated movie.
Yep.
I bought it and haven't watched it yet. So, and I don't think you guys have watched it either yet, have you?
No.
We need to watch it.
But if you want my opinion...
Okay, what's your opinion, John?
Better than Batman versus Superman.
I bet anything it is. There's no... So I really liked the toys, because I got all the toys from it, and I reviewed all the toys, and they were very good. And I kept meaning to watch it because I've heard nothing but positive things. I bought it on Blu-ray. Just haven't watched it yet, so we need to watch it.
Let's make it a thing for next
we should.
episode.
We should make it a thing for the next episode.
Topic.
It's a lot of pressure.
Well, I'll make sure to watch it.
We got 2 weeks, John. We got to watch this movie, okay?
Okay.
And then somebody else asked our thoughts on Picard's first episode, and I have not watched Picard yet.
It's going to be a while before I get to that. I'm not giving CBS money.
You can watch the first episode for free.
Episode 1's on YouTube.
Oh, can I watch all the other episodes after that?
Nope.
I'm not doing it.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I haven't gone to watch it yet, just because I want to watch all of it, and I'm in the same boat. I don't want to get CBS All Access. I'm not willing and ready to buy another streaming service yet. So unfortunately, I might be kind of a late comer to this show, because I'm probably going to have to wait till they release it on video or something.
Unfortunately, my dad's birthday isn't until December, which is also when Christmas is. But he will want this DVD set for one of those. When I buy that for him, I'll try to watch it with him.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe we'll get a chance to see it before then. But I really am interested in that show.
For sure.
I really, really am. I don't know. I don't want to pay for another service right now. I just don't. So that really kind of leaves us with this one last question that we can probably provide an answer to. Actually, hold on. We'll ask. Okay, there's a couple more here.
Okay.
So Ben asks, these are both very specific types of casting type questions. So Ben says, if DC were to do a movie about Jason Todd doing the whole Red Hood story, do we have any actors in mind that we'd want to play Jason Todd?
Ooh,
Zac Efron.
No.
Zac Efron.
This is our opportunity to book somebody who's going to be beaten to death with a crowbar.
Oh man.
But then come back and be awesome, because he has to come back as Red Hood.
No.
Okay.
Let us focus on this, Dan.
Sure. Okay,
because we can cast the young one to get beaten to death as Robin,
and then Zac Efron can come back as Red Hood.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
He's older. He's back from the dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Most of the people I want to see take that beating aren't like actors. They're people I know.
Yeah, Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber.
Jason Todd was like a little blonde kid, right? Wasn't he the little blonde?
He wasn't blonde.
He wasn't blonde,
No?
but he was the younger Robin.
Okay, yeah. So Justin Bieber and
Justin Bieber.
just
He's only in the movie for the scene where Joker beats him with the crowbar.
He's the young Robin. It's in the flashback at the very beginning, and hopefully, Red Hood will have like some, PTSD type stuff. So like we'll see that scene over and over throughout the movie.
Didn't they tease that happened in the DC movie universe with
sort of because they've got like the Robin suit with maybe bullet holes or something in it, or maybe there's just like a note or something. But there's like a Robin suit in the Batcave, and there's no Robin.
Yeah, so. It's got like Joker marks all over it or something, right?
Like that.
Because I remember one of the theories was that Jared Leto was going to be Jason Todd as the
Joker.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a weird twist.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I hate to say it because I also definitely would have hated that, and I would have made fun of it too. But I almost feel like, man, at least that would have been effort.
Yeah.
At least that would have been them trying something new.
Yeah. Well, it would have explained why he was so different, because there was like a real Joker out there.
Yeah.
And he was...
It's like a copycat Joker.
Right.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Rather than like, how do we try something new? I don't know, just tattoo his face or something. It'll work. It'll be great. Well, that's one of the things I love, because Joaquin Phoenix won Best Actor for playing Joker at the Oscars this year.
Yeah.
And so people keep pointing out that the guy who played the Joker before Jared Leto won an Oscar for the role, and the guy who played the Joker after Jared Leto won an Oscar for the role.
Wow!
And Jared Leto's just sitting there in the middle with no one caring.
Oh, man. Harsh. The Joker has won 2 Oscars.
Yeah.
2 different actors have won Oscars for being the Joker. That's crazy. All right. Ben also wants to know if they were to do a Casey Jones standalone TMNT movie.
Yep.
Who would we want to play Casey Jones?
Elias Cotis.
Yep, I'm in. Is he still good for that? Because he's Casey Jones in my book.
He's not doing anything else, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, it's tough.
Like, it's crazy because when I think of Casey Jones, that's who I think of.
So I wanted, for sure,
right?
And this was something I wanted to mention about the Sonic movie, and kind of forgot when you were talking about Spencer wanting other Sonic characters in it.
Yeah,
I remember going to see the Turtles movie, the '90s Turtles movie, and just thinking like, oh, I wonder if so and so is good, because I had a whole toy line of characters and a whole cartoon full of characters.
Bebop and Rocksteady weren't even in that movie.
Right.
I remember that being a thing.
Casey Jones was. And I was super excited when Casey Jones showed up. That was like the whipped cream on the sundae for me.
Sure.
And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And now definitely Elias Koteas is my Casey Jones. Yep. I remember in the cartoon he had like a weird Dirty Harry thing going on.
He was kind of a crazy nut job in that cartoon too. Yeah, they portrayed him way different.
Yeah.
He wore that weird little belly shirt.
Yeah. Well, he looked like the toy in the cartoon.
Yeah.
The the Nickelodeon cartoon.
The more recent one?
Yep. Was like that kid.
They de-aged him the same way they did April. Yeah, because they wanted him to be the same age.
Teeth.
Yeah,
like what I'm coming to is like I'm trying to think of a kid who could, or somebody who could play that character.
I liked that version of Casey Jones too.
That was a good version of Casey Jones.
I thought it was, and he developed a lot. Like that was one thing that the 2012 series did real good too. Like they always like introduced their variations of these characters and then had them develop into characters that we knew.
Right.
And they did that with Casey, because even by the last season, he was wearing the more standard Casey Jones mask that we knew, and you know what I mean? Like, it was cool. It was real fun to watch the development.
Well, wasn't Chris Evans Casey Jones?
He was in the Sarah Michelle Gellar when she was... Yeah, Chris Evans was...
Was it Chris Evans?
Yeah, that was Casey. Yep. So Captain America could be Casey Jones.
I was going to say.
I was thinking it was like Freddie Prinze Jr. or something.
Was it? No, hold on. Let's look.
Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Because I thought it was like the combo of them.
I don't think it was. I remember, I feel like it was Chris Evans.
Yeah. Well, your co-host will figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going
to figure it out. Could have been. Like when you say I thought it was Freddie Prinze Jr., I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. Except that
you guys remember Patrick Stewart was in that movie?
Yeah, he was the bad guy.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It was Chris Evans.
Okay.
It was Chris Evans. Yep.
But Chris Evans did play Zach Weiler.
Hey, Kevin Smith was diner cook. I didn't even know that. Oh yeah, Karai was in that movie. She was kind of like, because Shredder wasn't,
so good, man.
but Karai was leading the foot. That movie is so underrated. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it is.
And it did that thing that I love, where it was like, there was 3 live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. We definitely want to ignore the third one. We kind of want to ignore 2. So we'll just set this where it's definitely after 1 and the rest is sort of hazy.
Yeah, but they had to have existed, because they do that thing at the end where there's the trophy wall in the sewer home, and the time travel scepter from Turtles 3 is on the trophy wall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so is the TCRI broken canister. Like, they totally did that thing where they made it where all the movies had happened.
I think. I mean, they did at the time. I think if you go back and watch, I think TMNT fits as a after story to the Nintendo or the Nickelodeon. I don't know why I keep calling it Nintendo.
The Nick series, like the 2012 series.
The 2012 Nick
it
series.
Does kind of fit that way.
It fits
honestly,
really well with that.
And Shredder's
with
gone,
April, with Shredder gone, and Karai being around, and with April and Casey being a thing,
and like they're grown up now, and they're gonna get married, and Raphael went off to do his own thing.
Leo went off to
his own thing. Raphael's
the Night Stalker,
the Night Ranger, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. Dude, it's such a good movie, dude.
Yeah,
I'm glad we went down this rabbit hole. So everybody go watch TMNT. It's on
Thanks
Netflix.
for the question, Ben.
How about okay, hold on. Now let's answer his question. I
did.
I know you did. For a reboot, Casey Jones centric.
The problem is the person who I'm theoretically putting in that role of a younger Casey Jones is an actor. I don't know their name at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
what about the guy from Altered Carbon? What's his name? He was
Joel
Randall Flagg, and he was in RoboCop.
Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah. I feel like he's
like, I think he's on the older edge of. He's older than the story I would envision for this movie.
Yeah.
However, I really like him for a version of that character.
He seems to come off to me as he fits well in that he's kind of got a man.
He's great.
A scrubbish.
He is great.
Yeah, I don't know. He comes off back alley to me, even like when he was playing, and I said Randall Flagg a minute ago, but that's totally
that's the guy from The Stand.
That's the Stephen King villain.
But the guy you're talking about from Suicide Squad sounds like that. I just can't remember what his name is.
Yeah,
Rick, is it Rick Flag?
Rick Flag,
yeah.
I think so. It's definitely a Flag.
Yeah,
but he just seems kind of back alley and not like. Not Captain America, So for him to throw on a hockey mask and go beat somebody to death with a hockey stick, I think he'd be good for that role.
Yeah, he's the dark side of the of that character.
And he's got that kind of like accent to where he's not like, you're just kind of like, he sounds like a kind of normal man. He's got that kind of common man thing going on. So I could totally see him.
You keep saying he's not Captain America, and that's really making me want this guy as U.S. agent.
He'd be awesome as that.
I think we're getting that in the Netflix.
I think I've seen rumblings that there would be one, but I don't have. Yeah,
Falcon. I think we're gonna get U.S. agent in that.
Oh, it's Joel Kinnaman.
Me too.
He's not doing anything else.
All right, the last question we've got comes from Anthony, and he says, if you guys could create your own arcade one-up cabinets, what games would you include? You guys have anything for this?
Giving myself a second to talk myself out.
Well, I know what I want to see. Okay. I know what I want to see. I would love to see the Alien vs. Predator beat-em-up game, the Capcom beat-em-up game brought home in that. Like, that's one of the ones, like, that's at the Galloping Ghost. It's an awesome game.
I don't even know if I know what you're talking about.
Oh, next time we go to the Galloping Ghost, we need to play it, because it's a side-scroller beat-em-up, and you can choose between two human characters. One of them is actually Schwarzenegger's character, but he doesn't look anything like Schwarzenegger, and he's got a big robot arm for some reason, and two predators. And so, and then you're fighting aliens all the way through. It's a super awesome beat 'em up game. It's never been released outside of an actual arcade before, so this would be one of those games where this would be a good way to actually release it so that people can play it. And there's been a ton of great Capcom beat 'em up games, and so usually these cabinets have sort of a theme of some sort. So put something like Alien versus Predator on there, and if you had to do other Alien or Predator games, that'd be cool. Or we can do other Capcom beat 'em ups, because there's other ones I like a lot, Magic Sword is one of my favorite side scroller beat 'em ups from Capcom. Knights of the Round. Throw a bunch of those on there. I'd be all in on a Capcom side-scroller beat-em-up cabinet, but Alien vs. Predator would be my choice. That's what I really want to see right now.
See, that's kind of the same direction I was going, because I was going to say Double Dragon, Final Fight, Bad Dudes, all in one cabinet.
So Bad Dudes, I have Bad Dudes. It's on the Burger Time cabinet that just came out. Bad Dudes is on there. Yeah, so I've got that one. But
well, then what isn't that? What's
because Daddy East
Rumble
did Bad
in River
Dudes.
City or
River City Ransom?
River City Ransom, yeah.
Did they have an arcade version of that one?
I don't know. Feel like they did.
Yeah, I assume there was an arcade version of pretty much everything. If they thought a kid would shove a quarter into it, then yes, it existed.
Right.
I mean, any of those side-scroller beat-em-ups are awesome. Yeah, and they were always kind of one of the big draws for me personally to go to the arcade.
How about Narc?
Narc.
Dragon and Final Fight.
I know that Simpsons game gets brought up a lot as something people would like to see, that side-scrolling beat-em-up Simpsons game.
Because when you start talking about the cabinets, I start trying to think of things that fit together and jumble, so I start thinking about series when it goes right. So... one of my first thoughts is the old WrestleFest game.
Oh, WrestleFest would be so good.
Yeah, it'd be tons of fun. I don't know exactly what to put with it, though.
So I'm
sure there's other...
They should do WrestleFest and Royal Rumble, because those were two different games, but they're the same style game, and those would be perfect to put into a machine together.
That'd be a fun one right there. I also thought of the old Tron games.
Oh, Tron is a good idea too.
Discs of Tron plus the one that had the different you growing up that
I can't believe they haven't done that one yet.
Yeah,
to be perfectly honest,
and that'd be one that'd be real hard not to buy.
It's so hard, especially if they make that controller stick look like. If they can find a way to light up the controller stick the way that the one in the arcade does, it's game over, man. I want it. I want it,
And then my personal number one, and I'm probably, I think I'm in the minority on this probably, but if it were me to completely choosing it from the get-go, it would probably be Dragon's Lair 1 and 2, and
those
maybe throw Space Ace in there if you want.
Might as well.
That's what they, exactly.
Yeah. Because I really enjoyed those games, and I've played those games in home formats a lot, and they're fun and they're easy, and you get through it and you kind of get to watch all the animation, and it's neat, but it's never anything like when you're playing it at a cabinet. That's where the magic of those games is for me.
I bought that collection because they released that on Switch. Well, I think they did it through Limited Run Games. I think you can download the digital one if you want, but I actually bought the physical cart. But that's what it is. It's Dragon's Lair 1, 2, and Space Ace in a collection on Switch.
Nice.
And I bought it basically because I was like, I kind of want a good version of these where I can just go through and watch the animation.
Yeah.
And they've actually got a couple different modes on there where they've got assisted mode, so it helps you know when to push the buttons the right time so you can get through it easier, because that is really hard
they're
to
hard
like
games.
figure out, because it's just like you just have to know to push which direction at what time, and then it's a timing thing, and if you don't do it exactly at the right time, that's it. It's over.
Well, that's why, because they had those, at least Dragon's Lair 1 at the Galloping Ghost also, but I think the controls were a bit off on it, because I started to play it and I kept screwing up, and then I got my timing down after a little bit, but it was one of those where I got my timing down with 3 of the directions, but I never got it down with left, and it started making me think, maybe it's not my timing. Maybe it's not just working that well. And, but I was really excited, and then I couldn't get it, so if I could have it at home,
that'd be cool.
What if they went the other route, didn't do like something with joysticks? What if they did some shooters? Like,
more shooters would be cool. With the guns.
Time Crisis.
Time Crisis.
Yeah.
Man, that'd be cool. That Aerosmith shooter.
Oh my gosh, the Aerosmith shooter. Lethal Enforcers would be awesome.
Lethal Enforcers,
because there were 2 of those at least, right?
At least,
1 and 2.
There's at least 3 Time Crises.
Yeah,
and those have the recoil in the gun, so
and the
cooler.
pedal.
And the pedal. Yeah.
Man, that'd be. I don't know. It's dangerous, these arcade 1-ups, because like I love them, and I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know how you collect. Where am I going to keep putting those things? You know what I mean?
So you've already got a bunch.
I've got 3 of them now, and I don't know, but I love them, and I honestly play them all the time. Yeah. So it's really cool having them there. I've got a good variety right now, and it's funny the way they batch them together. It's usually by like a genre of the game, or sometimes it's just by company, because. Like I've got the Ninja Turtles one, which is just the 2 Ninja Turtles games, which makes sense. Right. But the Data East one I just got is Burger Time and Karate Champ and Bad Dudes and Caveman Ninja, which are 4 very different games, like genre-wise, but they're all made by the same publisher. So it's just a Data East cabinet, basically. And it's awesome. Like the Bad Dudes is super fun. And Caveman Ninja is another beat-em-up game that's a lot of fun. So, I don't know. I like it. I'm glad that they're doing them. I actually have an appointment with them at Toy Fair next weekend.
Oh, nice.
So, I'm real excited to see what they've got. They'll probably be revealing some new stuff at Toy Fair, so that'll be pretty cool. So.
Well, I'll make the proclamation right now. If it's one of the 3 I just suggested, I'll buy it.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Cool. I won't buy any of those.
You won't buy it? Jan will come over and play them. So.
I'll buy one and keep it a dance.
I was about to say, but when I buy, I may leave here.
I'm okay with that. That's
I bet you are.
All of a sudden, Danny's like, I'll find room.
Christina's like, we're just going to turn my whole family room into an arcade over there.
Well, that's the thing, right? If you want to buy it, Christina can be like, hold on, we don't need to spend that money. We don't have room. Where are we going to put it? But if I'm just like, hey, Danny, I got this for you. She can't be like, no, we don't want your...
Babe, I didn't pay anything for it. And Jared, I don't want... Jared doesn't have anywhere to put it. We got to keep it.
Every once in a while, we'll just road trip to the Galloping Dans.
The Galloping Dans. I got to get some neon lighting and put it around like the walls over there and everything. Just some dim lights in there.
I like the Ladan's Castle better.
The Ladan's Castle.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's
nice.
Good.
I was about to say, I like going over to Dan's more before he charged me $20 to get in.
All right, we're on to something. I like this. All right. Hey, so that's a good plug too. Like, I'm heading out to New York City in a week here, and I'm going to be covering my 10th Toy Fair. 10th New York Toy Fair, which is crazy. That's my 10th year there. So my channel is going to be filled with all kinds of coverage of all the new stuff coming out for 2020 from all the toy companies. So if you guys aren't already planning to check that out, please consider it. Head on over to my YouTube channel and hit subscribe. And while you're at it, make sure you're following the Geek Easy Podcast everywhere. We have a YouTube channel. Just do a search for Geek Easy Podcast and then hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get notifications every time we upload a new episode, and you'll get the video format there. If you guys prefer the audio format, you can find us on any of your preferred podcasting platforms, such as iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and Spotify and Podbean and all that stuff. So find us, follow us, leave us a review and a rating, and help spread the word. We have new episodes every other Wednesday. Anything else you guys would like to add?
Nope.
Yep.
Go see Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want Sonic.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Go see them both.
And
then
Sonic already did fine. We're gonna.
We gotta push Birds of Prey.
Yeah. I want a sequel to Birds of Prey. We're already gonna have to endure a sequel to Sonic. So let's get Birds of Prey up there before they try to close the door on that one.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, until next time, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you then.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of the Geek Easy Podcast.